has helped many people, both in and out of our community, in our immediate community, I should say, with their careers and advancements. So I'm hoping that you all get something special out of this, specifically for yourself. And Rob is going to send us this recording so that we can email out to you later on. And you can listen to it at your own leisure. You can forward it to anybody that you feel can get anything from this. And if Rob has any resources or handouts, he'll email those to me, and then I'll get those out to you as well. So without further ado, Rob, take it on.
Thank you. And so appreciate being with you in the chamber forums like this. It's been an unexpected blessing for me not to have to hop on airplanes all the time and travel around the world. It's nice to give back to the local community. That's been one of the better blessings of this COVID-19 crisis. And I thank you for being here, and thank you, Dee Dee, and the rest of the team at the Aurora Chamber for hosting. We're here today to talk about how 3 X factors that really contribute to career success. And I think some of us have had experience with these to varying degrees, and there's probably some others. I don't think we're limited to 3. So I'd love to hear from those of you who've also discovered other X factors for success as we go through today. One thing I will say, the pandemic has really disrupted the world, and it's disrupted all of our lives on a personal level. It's impacted our jobs, our careers. So during times of it, people like this, we really have to learn how to adapt. But there are some timeless principles. There are some things that will lead you to the most fulfilling, successful work of your life, independent of the economy. And so those are the things that we're going to really focus on today. My guess is that you probably haven't seen these X factors combined in quite this unique way, because 2 of them I've known for quite some time. One of them I just really became aware of within the last year. For over a decade, I've been involved in career management in some fashion. I actually started off in career management by being laid off during the Great Recession, so that was a good way to probably get my baptism by fire. Had to go through outplacement services, did all that. And then I eventually ended up working for Visa, and I was a career management consultant there for almost 3 years. And then went to work for the Wiseman Group, also doing leadership development and training and helping leaders in transition. And now for the last over 5 years, I've had my own business, helping people through the life gaps, the career transitions, and helping them find fulfillment in their lives. So it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and one that I have a lot of passion for. Before we get into the actual X factors and get into the topic of the day, I want to connect on a human level and just really ask those of you who are present, how has COVID-19 made you a better person? We hear so much negativity about the pandemic, but there's actually, I think, a lot of blessings that flow into our lives. And I want to hear how you've become a better person because of this pandemic. Let's have a couple of you share. Please remember to unmute yourself if you're talking.
Rob, David Harmer here. I respectfully suggest that the question assumes a fact, not an evidence. I'm not sure I've become a better person. But I have certainly experienced plenty of blessings and benefits. For me, it's been a joy to work at home, to reconnect with my wife and kids, since ordinarily I need to be away from them a lot. I've been more productive. It's interesting how much of my day at the office is taken up with interruptions that aren't really necessary, just part of the lubrication of usual human interaction. It's enabled me to take, to some extent, a longer-term view of where my organization is and needs to go. So there have definitely been benefits. But as I said, on whether it's made me a better person, the jury's out.
Oh, I don't know, David. I think you just set the record for us there on that. It's made you a better family man, having more time at home. That's pretty cool. And I like the fact that it's given you more of a long-term view, a more comprehensive view of the organization than getting sucked into the day-to-day madness. Those are 2 very awesome, Blessings. Anyone else like to weigh in on a human level about how COVID-19 has either blessed your life or made you a better person?
For me, COVID-19 is just enhancing what I've been doing for almost 20 years. For those that are unaware, Rob helped me back in 2010. I, too, had worked at Visa, and I remember him coming into our conference room, giving us an eye-opener as to what to expect since you are about to make a transition from being an employed person to an unemployed person. So I always took what he said to heart. Fast forward that to 2011, I'm in an environment where every day I'm dealing with the public, trying to assist them with providing reemployment services, and to have to listen to the various experiences that people are facing. Fast forward to right now, we have a lot of people that are still not being serviced by unemployment. So our agency is at least trying to assist them with registering for reemployment services should they have the ability to tap into that once this is all over. So to listen to what people are going through just reinforces empathy and compassion and patience, because this is something that is beyond our control. And all that we can do is control what we're able to control.
It's really profound, Kelly. Empathy and compassion. I don't think I would have that to the degree that I do were I not, laid off in the last Great Recession. And I love the fact that you have taken this so much to heart that you have now become a certified federal job search trainer and career coach, as I understand it, right? So you've really gone full distance, full circle on this. And I'm so glad to have you on the call to share.
I'm glad I was keeping up with you, Rob.
Nice to have fans, and I so appreciate just the opportunity to reconnect, Kelly, after a decade. It's almost like we haven't missed a beat in 10 years, right?
I know, right?
Thank you. This is really what it's all about. It's about the human experience. And I think, like Winston Churchill says, never let a good crisis go to waste. We have to have the human experience, and that is first and foremost. And some of these are really tied into the X factors that I'll share with you today. As I go to the, my career path, I don't know what your career path looks like, but I wanted to ask the question, what does yours look like? Is it more like the one on the left where we're all kind of straight lining up, or is it more like the one on the right? For me, it's definitely more like the one on the right. A lot of successes, a lot of failures, a lot of messiness, but trend lines are up, experience is up, empathy is up, life purpose and fulfillment is up. So, our paths are not going to be the same. We all have a very individual journey through life and our careers. But the fact remains is there are some things that will lead us to fulfilling, successful lives in a more rapid clip than others. And that's really why we're here today. And that's, I'm sure, what you came to hear is, what are those factors? How do we manage them? How do we account for them in our career? Just before we get into that, I have a poll that I'm going to activate for all of you. And that is the current state of your own career. So in your own career, some of us might be fulfilled, confident. Some of us might be dissatisfied or worried or everywhere in between. I want to just find out where this group lands on their own career. So I'm going to open up the poll and just have you share in your own personal way. And this is going to be an anonymous poll. What is the state of your career right now, if you had to answer that question? Extremely confident, very confident, somewhat, neither dissatisfied nor satisfied, or is it, somewhat dissatisfied? We'd just love to hear where everybody is on the career scale here. Okay. Looks like a lot of us are orienting in the somewhat or the satisfied component. So there's some room. There's some room for becoming more fulfilled or extremely fulfilled. Really, really happy to see that. So it looks like this group, for the most part, is in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and we'll go ahead and just share for for the 5 that did respond, this is kind of where we landed, in the satisfied or the somewhat satisfied space. So I submit to you, there's an opportunity for us all to get higher on that scale. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do we do that? X factor 1. One of these things is typical of the best leaders. So when you think about the best leaders and influencers, people who have really arrived at the top of their game, there's 4 things that really contribute to this. And this actually came from some research. It was a groundbreaking book that I read nearly a decade ago called Multipliers: How the Best Leaders Make Everybody Smarter. So this research comes from the Wiseman Group. And I had the opportunity to work with the Wiseman Group, with the author, Liz Wiseman, for 3 years. And it was fascinating as we looked at the things that make the best leaders better than everybody else. And so I'm going to ask you, what do you think this is in the context of their research? Seeing and using talents of others, intellectual curiosity, creating a safe environment for people to take risks, or listening. So as I ask you that question, if you would, in your text window, just text me the one that you think probably fits best or is most responsible or indicative of the best leaders and influencers, what makes them most successful. Okay, got to vote for number 1. Cindy's torn. Like I have to, I can't just pick one. Paul's saying number 3. Yeah. There's easy out, right, Cindy? I love that. So we're getting some votes, kind of across the board here. Dee Dee's saying number 2. Kelly saying number 4. And really, in essence, all of these are important. They're all absolutely essential. So I think there is no wrong answer here. But in the research that the Wiseman Group has done, we've actually seen that intellectual curiosity is one of the distinguishing factors that sets the most successful people apart. Whether you're a technical expert, a business entrepreneur, a people manager, leader of an organization, intellectual curiosity tends to drive those other 3 things. It enhances our listening. It allows us to create safety as people negotiate and navigate their own learning curves. And it does allow us to more readily utilize, more fully utilize the talents of others. So that is really the driving force behind the other 3. And this is really X factor number 1. So one of the things that we all need to probably spend some time thinking about in our own careers is this factor of curiosity. What is it that fascinates us? There's never been an easier time, a better time to work learning and development into our regimen. Many of us that were traveling a lot or involved in commutes now have the gift of time. We have some of that time restored to us. And I think that is a rare gift and one that we can really use to fuel our curiosity. So as the studies in the Wiseman Group have shown, people who are at the top of their game, they never lose this. Children have it in kindergarten. They've done studies. The average kindergartner, asks maybe 80 questions a day. Sometimes it's maddening how many questions they ask, but children naturally have this. And as we grow up, we tend to get beaten down by our system of education, where we have to have the answers. We have to get the A. We have to know what we know. And we sometimes allow the curiosity component of our lives to take a backseat. So why not revitalize that? That's one of the things that has definitely become evident in the research. Kelly says, I became a federal certified job search trainer by attending a 3-day training that was offered by the Maryland Department of Labor last year. That is awesome. So Kelly, I love the investment and I love your passion for this topic, because our curiosity really needs to drive us in our career. Here's why. I want you to write this down. This is one of the things that I've learned about curiosity. Where there is curiosity, there is passion. Where there is passion, there is drive and determination to be the best. or to invest enough time to become an expert. And that is why curiosity is so valuable in careers. So if we can find out what fascinates us, where our passion might be, and orient to that, that's one of the X factors that has actually set apart those who are at the top of their game and those who are not. So with that, I'd like to just take a pause on X factor number one and invite some comments. I want to ask you guys, where have you been most curious, most passionate in your work, and how has that affected your success on the job and in your career? You can use chat or unmute yourself, whatever you prefer. Dee Dee, at the Aurora Chamber, I know you do a lot of different kinds of work, and you've had a lot of experience in the past. We've had a couple of conversations, and you have a couple of really good, deep areas of curiosity. Do you want to share one of those with the group? Because I think it's important just to know what these are for each of us, for ourselves.
Areas of curiosity in regards to what, Rob?
To your work, to your life. Like what fascinates you? What are you most curious about?
Oh, we have, working here in Aurora, there's so many different levels of expertise and subject matter experts. I'm really fascinated to see all the people that are able to come together to make something happen, whether that's an event or supporting a member. There's just so many different ideas that people have. So that really fascinates me a lot when we see that come to fruition.
Yeah, that concept of community, what can people do together? That's a
Right.
really nice personal fascination, and certainly in this crisis, in a job like the one you have where you're connected to so many small businesses and the community, all organizations in Aurora, there's a lot to be said for that and probably a lot of good that will come from it. So thank you. Thank you, Dee Dee, for sharing that. Paul says, I switched from being a generalist business attorney to being an employment attorney for 5 years. Paul, that's interesting. So my question to you is, how did that affect you in terms of you becoming the employment attorney? What drove you there?
I was doing a little bit of employment law in California, and the general counsel called me up and said, "Gee, you're going to be an employment attorney now, all the time," and moved to Massachusetts. And so I got a geographic switch. I got a subject switch. I got to meet a whole lot of new people that were really, really smart, causing me to want to learn a lot more about the subject. And being at corporate headquarters and getting to work with a lot of other really talented attorneys, I learned a lot more about being an attorney and a senior attorney. So I think for me, that was a really big switch. And I really enjoyed it, and it made it so that I was curious about what I was doing and a lot of other things, and was on a learning fire hose.
Learning fire hose, man. We should all write that down. Sometimes we do need to be in the learning fire hose. Sometimes we can't stay there, but you sure get a lot very quickly on those cycles. Thank you, Paul. Learning is really the master skill. When you think about what's going to keep us successful beyond this crisis and into whatever the new normal is, it's probably going to be our ability to adapt and learn and find value in the work that we do for others. So I'm going to ask you, I shared my book, my favorite book, Multipliers, one of my life favorites. I have a few favorites, but this is one of my big ones. do you guys have any favorite reads, favorite books? And I think this is part of the benefit of coming together in a webinar like this, is to share what has impacted you in your best reads, your curiosities, what has had impact in your career. If you could use the chat window and share one of your favorite reads, favorite books, I think this is something that we could all benefit from, especially in the time investment that we're going to make to continue to learn and grow as professionals. If there's one that comes to mind, please share it. Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. Yeah, I haven't read that one. I'm going to have to add that to my list. Thank you, Thomas. I'm sure there are others, so please continue to enrich that list. I always enjoy people's experience with books that I would probably not otherwise pick up. And Thomas, what was it about that book that was so noteworthy for you?
Sorry about that. I was on mute.
That's okay.
Hey, it's a true story about a Navy SEAL and just not making excuses, getting things done.
Love it. Just sheer grit, determination, going after the goal. Love that. David Harmer says, actually, I have a bunch. He says, I have a lot of business, career, self-improvement books, but I love good histories and biographies. We can learn a lot from the lives and challenges of others. Absolutely. Winston Churchill, as you noticed, is one of my favorites, as he had to navigate severe crises during World War II, keeping Great Britain from being taken over by the Nazis. Power of Positive Thinking. Here's another one. Dee Dee, thank you. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. These are awesome, and I really appreciate your willingness to share with the community some of your best reads, because this, again, is a part of our curiosity, how we feed our curiosities to continue to learn and grow. So that's X factor number one. Make sure that you don't lose sight of that with all the madness and all the craziness of managing life now during the crisis. Let's continue to invest time there. Now, the second one is probably not going to be a surprise to most of you. It's has to do with professional networking. One of the factoids that just blew me away was the fact that if you look at the most wealthy people, most wealthy people in the world, they are networking at least 5 hours per month. I think this is really significant. Sometimes we can get very busy, we can get very caught into the moment, how to solve problems with our families, our teams, navigating life. But if we average it out over the month, investing 5 hours, it's a significant amount of time, but it's probably doable for most of us. And the fact that those who have acquired the most wealth are doing it at a regular clip, it's one of the factors that separates them from the rest of the population. So I would advocate that there is a need to expand and to invest in our professional networks. But the way we do that, the real revelation on this X factor for me came by examining the data about what happens when you do network. Where do you make the investment? I got another chat coming in, so let me check that one. Who Moved My Cheese? Thank you, Kelly. Oh, that's a great book. That's a classic. Yes, thank you for adding to the list. So I want you to think about the network that you have. And all of us have trusted contacts. We have affiliated contacts, and some people that we probably know more by acquaintance or by working together once upon a time. Think about your network and then ask yourself this question. Is my network open or closed? Forbes did a study through one of the, and I'll send you the link for those who are interested in this. Forgot to include it in the slide. But they have actually found that for people who have large open networks, meaning they're not just clustered in one industry, they're not just clustered, on a tight-knit group of people that are immediately affiliated. But if you look at the left side of this graph, those individuals who have more open networks actually have higher compensation, better performance evaluations, more promotion opportunities. So if you look at the sheer performance on the job, having an open network or a more open network is truly an asset to you. And I am grateful that my network became open, not by choice, but by circumstance. So what you may not know about me is I'm a computer science major. I started out as a technical professional, and I expected to be a technical professional for life. And so for the first 10 years of my career, I was actually using my computer science degree, went to work as a programmer for AT&T. After 6.5 years there, I got tired of the big corporate environment and jumped ship to join a startup, PeopleSoft, when they had 300 employees. And that was quite a wild ride. You wear a lot of different hats, things happen quickly, not a lot of structure, but an amazing set of products. And in the late 90s, as you know, software companies in Silicon Valley were just booming. So it's very high growth, very stimulating work. And that was a great ride. And it was during that time that I encountered my first great multiplier leader. Her name was Marcia. And she found me in a conference room working on my technical courseware one day. She was the vice president of PeopleSoft University. And she said, "Rob, can I talk to you for a minute?" I said, "Sure. What's up, Marcia?" She says, "We have a big problem in this business. We're going to grow 50% next year. Our organization is going to have to bring on 9 new technical instructors. We need someone to lead the team. And I think you're the guy to do that." And I was stunned. I'd never expressed any management aspirations. And I was also flattered. And I said, "Marcia, I appreciate, your confidence, but I'm not sure I'm a manager kind of guy." And she didn't even flinch. He looked at me and she said, "How will you know? How will you know unless you try?" And that one question opened up a whole new career path for me, a whole new avenue of learning. I realized I needed to grow, and she saw potential in me that I couldn't even see in myself. And so I embarked on the path of people management. I accepted the job, didn't know what I was doing, had to go recruit, hire a team, work across organizational boundaries, do a lot of things I'd never done before. But it was stimulating, and it was amazing work. And at the end of that first year, I found I had more passion for getting results through people and teams than I did being hands-on directly with the technology, which I never knew when I was in college. And I had a leader that saw potential in me and invited that and opened the path. And so in the leadership and management circles, I started making more contacts, started branching out in my network, and my network started to grow. When Oracle took over PeopleSoft in 2005, I was laid off for the first time in my career. And suddenly my 11-year run at PeopleSoft, which was an awesome run, came to an end. And I had to join another organization, which was EMC Corporation. Worked there for 4 years. And again, when the Great Recession hit, I was laid off from that company. And again, was forced to network, to grow my network. And eventually, these experiences shaped my network and made it more open than it would have been had I stayed with one organization or had I stayed in one technical discipline my entire life. And I'm grateful for those gifts. I'm grateful for the fact that sometimes by circumstance, sometimes by choice, we have the ability to open up our networks. And that has been one of the biggest sources of joy to me and one of the greatest strengths in the career that I've been able to live, especially over the last decade, having a robust open network. So I'm not saying we don't want some tight clusters, some closeness and some intimacy. So we're not saying that everything has to be open, saying that if you have that already, if you've got the tightly clustered, connected network, consider venturing into new meetup groups, consider venturing into areas where you are fascinated, your curiosities, to widen that. Because as your network becomes more open, there is a direct correlation to the success and the fulfillment you will have in your career. So this was the aspect of networking that has really become clear to me personally over the last decade. And it is important that we remain vigilant on this and that we strive to continue to develop and to grow our networks, not just in the areas that we're experts in now, not just in the areas that we've traditionally been involved with functionally, but elsewhere. I want to just pause and ask about that because I know all of us have different career paths, different life experiences. And Kelly, you are a career coach and you've had to do this yourself. So anyone who has things to weigh in about best practices in networking and how to balance this would be welcome at this point.
Rob, as you were explaining the open network and closed network, immediately, I know this sounds a bit odd, but I compared it to a smorgasbord. When you go to your local smorgasbord, you have all of the various opportunities to try the things that you always like, but you're also willing to try new things. As long as you are willing to try new things, you are always staying open to new possibilities, new collaborations that lead to new experiences.
Powerful.
So I guess the takeaway for me is to expand your opportunities. Be open to try new things.
Beautiful counsel. I like what you said about, you know, our favorites, our go-to people, the people we're most close to in the network.
Right.
They need care and feeding. So we're not saying ignore that. We're not saying don't invest there.
Right.
What you're saying is take time to open a new path, to widen your palate, try a new dessert, go into some area that might fascinate you. You don't have to abandon your base, but just be open to that as a constant practice. Love it.
Yep.
Beautiful. So this is not my opinion or my words. This is a study that was done among professionals that has actually proven that this is one of the X factors, having an open network and being actively involved in building and growing that constantly. So there's a lot of techniques that Kelly and I and others who are in the industry, we teach people how to have a good informational interview. You know, you can go out and have informational interviews. You don't have to be interviewing for a job, and get some great intelligence about the market, about what's going on in the world, skills you may not have yourself, but that others have that can transfer by osmosis. So there are practices like this that we need to be doing daily, or if not, weekly or monthly. So with that, any other comments about the networking, about how important that is and what's worked for you, what's helped you in this process? David,
Rob, just a quick question for you. I'm fortunate to know some really sharp people. I don't know how to network with them. I guess I feel like I need a purpose to touch base with them. Preferably a purpose that involves some benefit to them, not just an ask from me. So I guess I feel like I've got a potentially good network, but it's not one I make very good use of. Any thoughts?
Love the question. Probably a lot of angles that you can play on that, but the one that is probably more important than all of them would be to ask yourself this question: what value could I provide to that person in this moment? One of my business coaches, Kane Minkus, who has started many multi-million-dollar businesses, very successful entrepreneur, he recounts a time that he had a chance to be on stage with Richard Branson at this network event. And going in, he knew he would be in close proximity, would actually have a chance to have a conversation, to interact. So going into that event, he researched a lot of Richard Branson's charities, his philanthropic empire, understood how it worked, where they had the footprint, where they were, the causes they were involved in, gathered a lot of data about that. And what he did is he prepared this little summary, this one-page summary about where they might consider investing to have greater impact in those causes. He did a little bit of research, did a little homework, went into this event, and when he had the chance to meet Richard backstage, He said, Richard, love the work you do. It's so impressive. Your philanthropic enterprises. Just so you know, I did a little research, and here's some things that may actually help your dollars go further in these two particular markets. He didn't cover it for the entire enterprise, but he did in a couple of targeted areas and said, this might be helpful in getting more mileage out of your investments there. Richard was so impressed by that. He immediately said, Kane, love your enthusiasm, and I really like your proactivity. Why don't you talk to my assistant? And he pointed to a man that was kind of in a corner at a computer, kind of out of the way, and said, he manages a lot of my day-to-day. He's one of my top leaders in the business. Why don't you guys have a discussion about how to implement some of this stuff? And instantly he was in Richard Branson's orbit, which, as you know, very influential, right? Very influential guy. And so I think part of the question we can ask ourselves when we are networking is, what value, what insight could we bring to that interaction when we have the opportunity to do it? It might be introducing them to someone else. It could be as simple as making an intro. It might be sharing a resource or an inspirational quote when somebody's down. There's some value we can add. I think that is one of the best ways to network, David, and I hope that helps as you ponder yours.
Thank you.
Others. And I know Kelly and others have had, Paul, you've had a lot of experience, in employee relations and, managing the complexities of organizational life. How else have you found you can continue to network effectively?
I must say that I don't consider myself a great networker. I've had the opportunity to meet lots and lots of people over my career before I retired about 5 years ago. And then I've been doing volunteer work for 4 or 5 different organizations since then, and have gotten to meet a lot of people, but usually I'm getting the benefit of somebody coming to help me when I learn it. You'd think I'd learn from that, but it's still tough for me. I don't feel natural, and so I don't have an enormous amount of confidence, and so it's kind of like a basketball shot. If you think you're going to miss it, you probably are. So.
Paul, you spoke some truth there that just really resonated with me, and you're probably better than you think you are at this. Because you said, I volunteer, I serve. And serving with people in nonprofit causes that we care about, one of the best ways we can network. And it's so easy to do because we all share those values or the commitment to a cause. And having that common foundation really opens up conversations in ways that wouldn't happen in a meetup group, in other forums. So just serving in an area that you care about will, by its very nature, widen your network and open up new conversations as you do that in a natural way. So thank you. Very helpful.
Thank you. Maybe I'll be more confident.
No, continue to do what you're doing. Let's continue to serve, because that is one of the best ways to network, and it's not having to work too hard at it. So anyway, these are things for us to think about, and I submit to you that if you, on a monthly basis, go through and target a few people that maybe you haven't connected with in a while. And Kelly, fate has brought us together today, which is amazing after 10 years. It's so great to
Yes, it has.
unexpectedly here. These are the relationships that we can enrich, renew, branch out to others that could benefit from the value that we have to offer. So it's all about value and value exchange. How do you create a virtuous value exchange is really how the network can thrive. And by serving, probably one of the best ways to accelerate toward open networks, getting us into different circles, exposure to different people, and then also seeking out areas of fascination. So if we're fascinated by marketing, or we're fascinated by healthcare, or whatever the area is, joining meetup groups and starting to have conversations with people who are in those industries is a good starting point. So do invest in your network. Don't forget that. It's one of the critical X factors for career success and fulfillment. The third one is really interesting. This one, I didn't really appreciate it until last year, kind of coalesced into an X factor, the third X factor. And it was so enlightening to me. It was such an epiphany. So here's a couple of people who I want to share some stories, and just out of respect for their privacy, I'm not going to give you their names, but let me share the situation, the life story. Now, one of them I will share. It's my brother. My brother Michael had a very successful career in banking till he was about 30. He was very sharp, had an upward track in banking, but was dissatisfied, did not find fulfillment in that work. And so at age 30, he said, I think I want to go into medicine. I think I want to be a doctor. And of course, his wife was in shock, like, okay, so you're going to walk away from your income, go to medical school, be in school for 10 years, and then you're going to be a doctor? It had some pretty big life implications, but it was his passion. And so he decided to go all in. He was fortunate that at the time he left banking, there was a merger going on and his bank was acquired. And so he got a nice severance package to kind of get a head start on paying the money for medical school and getting started in that. And then, of course, there are student loans and other financial aid options. His wife worked, but he did get into medical school. One of the oldest people at Columbia University, he was in his 30s, everybody else was, young 20s, and got involved in medicine. Now he has his own family practice. He's living his career, fulfilling dream. But it took him to the point of mid-career before he realized that he needed to do this. He needed to go all in. I know another forensic scientist in his 30s decided he wanted to be a dentist. So he again switched tracks, went to dental school, invested in that, now has his own practice. A mid-career marketing director quit on a whim. So she was very successful, director level position, making good income, quit on a whim, started her own home-based business. And 2 years later, she's now making over $1 million in revenue. So again, this may seem nonsensical. It may seem kind of random and scary, but the people who succeed in their careers do go all in. They invest fully. One talented young musician, one of the most impressive stories that I've ever come across was I knew a musician who bought a one-way ticket to Asia, gave up his musical ambitions because he didn't have the passion for it, and went to Asia where he taught English for 4 years. Just didn't know a soul, planted his roots down, and started teaching English. Did that, immersed himself in that culture for 4 years, then came back for the US and really had a lot more clarity about what he wanted to do, which was helping people over the long run in their lives. So he became a certified financial planner, and now it's a very successful career in that industry. So here's a gentleman who has started out in music, taught English abroad, lived the study abroad, and now has a very fulfilling job as a financial planner. So a lot of the X factors that have really come together, to me as I interact with so many people is whatever you do it with passion, go all in. That's where our curiosities can lead us into those spaces. And then we have to have the decision point. We decide we're going to act on it. Now, going all in does not mean you do what that marketing lady did. You just give up your job on a whim. It might mean, okay, I'm still having my job, but I'm going to start a side hustle and I'm going to invest this amount of time in that every week, every month to make that work. And eventually that might be the path to be able to make that a full-time job and to be able to give up the corporate job or the job that is not bringing you as much fulfillment. But that is the third X factor. And that is where the passion really comes in and makes us successful, gives us the drive and the grit to carry on. So I hope that these three things together have allowed you to look at your own life, your own career, wherever you are. Some of us might be earlier, some of us might be mid-career, some of us might be later in our careers. Wherever that is, where is the passion? What can we do? So I want to just stop here and check in with you guys about these three things that have brought about the best success in others, and check in, is there one of these that is speaking to you today? Is there one that has touched your heartstrings, that has actually opened your eyes, given you an epiphany about where you might need to make a larger investment or take some action? David, you always were an overachiever, all three. Oh, I love it. For those who don't know, David is the CEO of Freedom's Foundation at Valley Forge. It's a nonprofit group that until COVID-19 would invite students, teachers to their campus in Pennsylvania, teaching the values of democracy, our American heritage. Just an amazing organization. Love that. Open networks, Dee, thank you. And yeah, from a sense of community where your passion is, that's great. Paul, thank you for your comment. Open networks. That is really something we have to continually invest in. Any others that are speaking to you today? Kelly, going all in. Yeah, you certainly did that when you got certified, right? In your career coaching in the federal space. It's a big investment. So I'm really grateful for the time that we've had today. We're coming up on the top of the hour, so I wanted to make sure we leave a little time open for some exchange and some interactions. Take your questions, wherever they might be. I do have a couple parting thoughts to share, though, and one is in the area of how you systemically can recalibrate your career. I've watched a lot of people do this. I've personally helped a lot of people go through this process. And in the decade of being involved very deeply in this work, there's three things that I've learned. A couple of them do correlate to the X factors. I call it C3. There are three C's. Curious, being curious is one of the most important things we could do constantly. So this, again, directly connects to that one X factor. We have to be curious about where we can be great next. What undiscovered talents do we have that have been sitting on the sidelines? Like Marcia invited my leadership skills very early in my career. How do we find that? Where are we fascinated? What do we need to learn? So that curiosity space is kind of a continuous state. If we can continuously feed that, that's the number one health factor. And that is really the first step to becoming clear about where we can make a difference, where we can add value, where we can have greater impact, take our game up to the next level. Les Brown, one of my favorite speakers in the world, very inspirational guy. If you go Google him, he actually says you're never too old to dream a new dream. And I love his perspective on that. And he says most of us in our careers, we're playing too small. Instead of hitting home runs, we're content with hitting a single, getting on base. So we can have more impact. So that's where clarity comes out of our passion. So our curiosity leads to clarity on areas we can make a difference, we can add value. And then finally, we get confident. We get the confidence to go all in. We get the confidence to act in some way. And that is my hope for all of us on this webinar, for those who listen to it after, is that we can navigate through these three C's, that we can take our curiosity, use it to get clarity, and then use it to be confident enough to act, to make a difference in the lives of those we can serve, either in our nonprofit causes, in work that we do professionally, in our retirement. So Paul, it's great that you're still investing in your career in retirement. I love that. There's all kinds of ways that we can make a difference. And I found that there's an organic process that can play out. You can be in that curiosity space for a long time. It would take a long time if we let that play out organically to get to clarity, to get to confidence. That can be accelerated through a couple of things. Networking can accelerate our journey to clarity and confidence. Also, coaching. I have my own coach, actually two of them in my business, and coaching and assessments can help us get there. It will accelerate the clarity, our path to clarity. So that is one of the investments we can make that can really help. And then also tapping mentors and experts in our lives. Those are accelerators to that journey. I had another comment that came in on the chat window. Is anyone interested in connecting via LinkedIn? Oh, Cindy, great suggestion. I absolutely am willing to do that for those who want to connect on LinkedIn. Would love to have that privilege, enrich our networks. What a great suggestion. This is why the power of the village is always better than the power of one mind. So appreciate that. So this is the system that I actually work when people are going through career transitions, is to really leverage their curiosity first and foremost, or to reignite that if it's not active in their lives, and drive them to some clarity, to some purpose where they will get confident enough to act, and it makes all the difference. So from a what's next perspective, I thank those of you who've shared what has touched you the most and invites you to take action. It really comes down to finding our why. Simon Sinek is one of the greatest thought leaders of our age. He's an optimist. He inspires. He does a lot of free book clubs and things online. And he's really good in leadership. And it all starts with, what is our personal why? The reason why I've had so much fun in my career and so much fulfillment over the last decade is because I finally found that after being laid off from E&C. It was while I was going through my outplacement services and going through the despair and the ups and downs of a job transition at a time when there really weren't that many jobs, and finding one of the consultants there that saw potential in me that I couldn't see in myself. For the second time in my career, I had somebody who called that out, found out I really had a knack for teaching and for consulting, and invited me to join their staff part-time, even while I was doing my own outplacement services. And that spoke to me. I found I really liked that work. I really enjoyed it. And it gave me my sense of purpose, which was to re-inject humanity back into business. Before COVID-19, we lost that. We were getting insensitive. Business was business. You know, how many times have we heard, oh, that's just business. It's nothing personal. Yes, it is personal. And now we're finding with the virtual lifestyle and the challenges of the work-life balance that have come about because of this crisis, it is personal and it does matter. And that's one of the things that thrills me the most about this crisis, quite frankly, is that it allows me to contribute more in that space, re-injecting humanity back into business. And that's the work that I love, and that's what I've devoted the rest of my career for. So if you haven't yet found your why, your calling, your purpose, we should talk, because part of your curiosity will drive that to a large extent. You will get that clarity, you'll get the confidence to act on where you can contribute the most next. So I issue an invitation, and I only do this with the chamber members, for anyone on this call that may be in need of having a one-on-one to really find how to accelerate your own life, your own path to greater career fulfillment. I will give an hour of my time. That's part of my gift to you. And I'm only going to do this through May, because as the business is starting to pick up again, probably going to go back on the road, start doing other things. But if you want to do that, if that would be valuable to you, I'd be willing to offer your time. So if you're willing to connect on LinkedIn, you want to schedule that, please do. I will give that hour. The only thing I ask in return is that you bring your best thinking, you bring full transparency, and in that hour, the goal would be to create a breakthrough for you, some way to move you forward in your career. So I hope that this has been a great experience for you. We have just a few minutes left, so I want to just open it up for those who have questions to ask them, any interactions and thoughts or things you want to share by chat or on the open mic. Time is yours.
Rob, while the others are thinking of good questions, I just want to offer heartfelt thanks. As always, you're worth infinitely more than we're paying you for this. This has really been insightful, for me, inspiring. I've got some course corrections to make, but some fundamental reimagining to do. So thank you. Thank
It's
you very
exciting
much.
to be in that space, David. Thank you. And let me express my thanks also to the Chamber, to the Aurora Chamber. It's been so good at hosting these. Kelly, to the great joy of reconnecting again after all these years. And Cindy, Thomas, thank you for being with us. Hope you all have a wonderful day.
Hey,
and a
Al.
great crew.